Hello, I'm Michael Hasted, and you're listening to Arts Talk Radio, bringing you interviews and news relating to all aspects of the arts in Holland, which are either in English or where language is no problem. We cover Amsterdam, The Hague, Rotterdam, and the surrounding areas.
Arts Talk Radio Online. Features on the arts in English.
We've been away for a while, but now we're back with a special edition of Arts Talk Radio. We were in Amsterdam a few days ago where we met Pep Rosenfeld, who was one of the founders and is a leading light of Boom Chicago, the English-speaking comedy theatre. I talked to Pep in a rather noisy cafe in the heart of the city.
Thanks very much for wanting to talk to me. And let me just say, I like to think of it not as a noisy cafe, but a bustling, exciting, vibrant cafe.
Okay. Right. Now, you're a man of many hats.
Yeah.
You are a comedian. You are a master of ceremonies. You are a business guru, can I say?
I don't know that I'm a business guru, but I'll let you say it.
And a writer. You've got a new book coming out.
It's true.
And we'll talk about that later. So which of those many hats suits you best?
If I'm honest, I think that the Master of Ceremonies hat is kind of the one that I enjoy. Well, no, that's not true. So I've been doing a lot of keynote talks lately, sort of these interactive keynote talks, where it's one part talking about the stuff that's in the book, which we'll talk about soon, and one part making jokes, and one part kind of teaching businesses how to work better with communications and presentation skills, whatever it is they're focusing on. And I like that a lot because it sort of combines a lot of elements. It combines hosting, it combines the stuff that I wrote about, it combines jokes, it combines teaching. It's sort of all in one big hat, if you will.
But I think you employ humor in all aspects of what you do.
Yeah. Our motto at Boom Chicago is humor makes business better. And I think that's just true. Like, I think everything goes down better with a spoonful of humor. At my dad's funeral, I mean, the first thing I said wasn't a joke, but the third thing I said sure was. Like, I just think everything's better with a joke.
And I think, plus, you're best known for it as being the founder of Boom Chicago. That's been going, how long now? 30 years now or more.
32 this June.
And how did that come about? How did a group of Americans come to open a comedy club in Amsterdam?
It's a crazy story. It's actually, Andrew and I call it the best stoner idea ever, because we were, Andrew Moskos is the co-founder, and he's my oldest friend. We've been friends since we were 9 years old. And we were doing that very American post-university trip where it's sort of 2 days in all the cool cities of Europe. We came to Amsterdam first. We got super high in Amsterdam, and while we were super high, we had this idea, we should totally do a comedy show next summer, man. It'd be great.
Had you already been doing comedy in Chicago?
We were doing comedy in Chicago. In Chicago, there's like a huge and vibrant scene for improvisation comedy. It's the home of this famous theater called Second City, and we were both doing a mix of taking classes and doing shows. And it is a great place to learn and not get paid to do improv. So we were like, why don't we take a summer and we'll go to Amsterdam. They don't have, there's nothing like what we do back home because there wasn't then. They speak English, the Dutch speak English, there's tourists. I think we can do a summer show. We convinced 4 friends to come out with us. We came out here, Andrew and I came out, we found a space, we found a place to live, and then the others joined us. And we did the show from June 1993 till I think the end of August, and it just kind of worked. Like, people liked the show. We would sell it on the street by handing out these flyers, and it just all kind of clicked. We ended up extending for a couple of weeks, and then the next year we rented a slightly bigger space for a slightly bigger summer, and every year was a slightly bigger summer, and the summers got longer and longer.
And what were you doing when you went back to Chicago?
Yeah, I mean, I was doing a classic performer's gig of improv, a mix of improv and waiting tables. And I don't know what Andrew was doing for money at that point, because he had given up he had a job with a tie before we went to Amsterdam. I did not. I had a job with a bow tie, a waiter, so it was easier for me. I don't know what he did.
I mean, it would make a great film, wouldn't it? No, seriously, it would.
We keep telling people it would be.
No, it would. I mean, it's one of those stories which sounds like a cheap, not a cheap novel, but I mean
a quality novel that's not overpriced.
But yes,
a well-priced, fairly priced novel, where you buy the novel and you're like, huh, That's more than I was expecting, but worth it.
And it would make a good film.
To be honest, we've written a book about that we call the most important 30 years in Dutch history.
I reviewed that. Look, Greg gave me a copy.
Did you like it?
Yeah.
All right. So we talk about the whole origin of Boom Chicago there. I agree it'd be a great movie, and if there's any movie producers listening, it would be a great movie, and we're very flexible.
Well, if you can start the Boom Chicago, surely you can produce a movie.
You'd think. One's more expensive than the other.
But it can't have been cheap to set it up in the first place.
It was pretty cheap. The first year the expensive part was plane tickets, was rent for our apartment, but we all 6 lived in this little place on the Schipperstraat, which was a place built for one, and that poor woman who loaned it to us had no idea we were going to put 6 people in there. We built a bunk bed in the kitchen, which we called the slaapkeuken, the sleep kitchen. We built a little bunk bed there. I mean, it was ridiculous, but we did what we had to do. And then the space, we did what I would call a classic Chicago deal, which is we get the tickets, you get the bar, and we didn't pay them any rent. So it was less expensive than you'd think. I mean, it was a little bit, but it wasn't.
But did you have audiences straight away?
Our first audience, I think, was like 12 people, 9 of whom were a bachelor party that Andrew dragged in at the last minute. And then it got bigger and bigger. The space sat, I think, 100 if it was really full. And by the end, we were getting crowds of 80, 90. And, our break-even point was probably in the 40s. Like, it went well, and not paying rent on the space certainly helped.
And now how long have you been here full-time?
Boom Chicago has been full-time since 98. We were in the Leidseplein from 98 until 2013, and that's when we moved to our current, and I think forever, home base on the Rosengracht.
And it's 52 weeks of the year, 7 nights a week.
52 weeks of the year. We do our shows 5 nights a week, but sometimes there's other events. There's visiting comedians on Mondays and Tuesdays.
Folks, if you're looking for a great publication, Arts Talk magazine. They talk about the arts, and it is so great, bigly. It's the only news that is not fake.
I'm with Pep Rosenfeld, and we're talking about, among other things, his career as a comedian and a master of ceremonies, but he's also got a book out, and the book is called?
The book is called Work-Laugh Balance. Why and how you can use humor to help you and your team be more successful.
I think the title gives it away fairly adequately.
I think I'm a big believer in the subtitle. At Boom Chicago, we love a good subtitle. The first part kind of gets you, and the second part explains what you were gotten into.
Yeah. So, but in more detail.
Well, look, I believe that everybody's workplace is a little bit better if it's a little bit funnier. And I believe that everybody communicates better and more effectively if they can just add a sprinkle of humor to what they're saying. And this book first explains why laughing is good for you, why humor is good for the workplace, in case there's any doubters out there. But the bulk of the book is spent teaching people how to be funnier. I lay out this methodology of 7 skills that if you get good at them, you'll get funnier. Will you get your own Netflix special? No. But will you have a better presentation the next time you give a presentation at work? Yes, I believe you will. And so I talk about methods to really make yourself a better observer of the world and connection maker between dull things and funny things. I talk about like some what I call cookie cutter joke formats, and which, by the way, I never recommend. Like, jokes are about much more than cookie cutter formats, but I did include some cookie cutter formats because I feel like people want them. And then there's a chapter on how not to get swayed by the dark side of the humor force and use humor to be the jerk at the office.
And does this apply to workers and management? Because I can imagine managers maybe not being so happy to see their workers sitting in a corner giggling.
Well, look, I mean, I think if managers can do it, every workplace is better if a manager has a good sense of humor about himself or herself. I think every workplace is better if communication is clear, if nobody's hiding things, if you feel like you can have a transparent conversation with your manager, and I think humor can help that. I think a lot of times I'm going to host an event, And before the event, I'm told, "Oh, Pep, it's going to be gloves are off. We want it to be a big, two-way conversation. We're going to talk about everything, but we had this messy reorg a couple of months ago. Don't talk about that." And I always think, don't talk about that. What is your theory? Is your theory that if I don't talk about it, nobody will talk about it? Because I guarantee they'll talk about it. And the question for good leaders is, do you want to lead that conversation, or do you want that conversation to happen in some WhatsApp group you're not invited to? Well, humor can help you start those conversations and lead those conversations. So I think it's great for management as well as those that aren't managing.
And on what do you base this theory? Because if you've been working most of your adult life as a comedian, have you had a lot of experience working in offices and companies?
So that's a fair question, and I cop to it in the book right away. But the thing is, I spend, when I do a job, 10% of the time is me making jokes, and 90% of the time is me watching, listening, talking to the folks at this company, right? So I see how their meetings go. I see how their communication goes. I know the things they're afraid of. I talk to them and talk about the things they're concerned about. I see how communication goes wrong, and I watch how me using humor helps it go better.
And does it vary? You have different aspects. I mean, for example, you wouldn't really expect maybe the same humor from a train driver as you would from, say, a doctor.
No, and certainly not at the same moments. Agreed. And there's certain jokes that you just can't make if you're the manager, and there's certain jokes that you just can't make if you're my, oncologist telling me how the results went. But I would say that for everybody, no matter what your job, some humor is at least sometimes, and frequently many times, appropriate and helpful in your communicating. But yeah, it's different for everybody. It's kind of up to you to know the venue.
Because there are problems these days, so you have to be very careful what you say and to whom. That must be very inhibiting for both your wearing a hat as a comedian and as your business.
I personally never find it that difficult to walk on the right side of the line. I don't know why. I mean, I'm not a saint, but it's so easy to not make fun of the stuff that people feel weak about. It's so easy to not make fun of the I was going to say downtrodden group. Oh my God, I've turned into a I don't know who says downtrodden group. I've turned into an etching on the Statue of Liberty. I think it's easier than we think to not be a jerk when you're making jokes. Having said that, I mean, you're right. We're at a time where you make the wrong joke, people come chasing after you. That's why one of the chapters in the book is about how to not make the wrong joke.
And I would imagine that in your situation you would have to be really quite careful in everything you say all the time, because there are so many pitfalls and so many things. I mean, it changes every week. It's like a blackboard in a cafe, which they write on every week. What you
the daily
say.
Specials. Oh, today we're 86 on pronouns. Sorry, don't mention those today. On the one level, the answer is yes, right? On the one level, the answer is yes. It changes every day. You're always worried about what you're going to say. On one level, the answer is I still don't find it that difficult. And the stuff I deal with in the book, the stuff I deal with when I'm doing a keynote about this stuff, it's all about finding out what is going to be funny to the people you're talking to and serving that up to them in the form of a unique connection between something dull and something that they've never thought of before. And I think you can do those things without offending the person you're talking to. I don't think it's that hard.
Perhaps it's not so hard to offend a room full of people as it is an individual.
Of course, the difference is if you offend an individual and you're one-on-one with them, well, you can talk about it. If you're offending the whole room.
Do you ever find yourself offending people? Do you ever find people walking out? Have you ever had anybody walking out?
I think at Boom Chicago comedy shows, I've had people walking out, because at Boom Chicago comedy shows, we're crossing lines. I mean, if you're not crossing lines at a comedy show, then...
But there are people who make a living from crossing. I mean, Ricky Gervais,
yeah.
His whole act is built.
Right, that's what I'm saying. If you're a comedian, you're not crossing lines, I think you're in the wrong business. And people probably walk out at Ricky Gervais shows too, right? Isn't Ricky Gervais recently kind of said, it's you don't have the right to not be offended, and just because you're offended doesn't mean you're right.
Yeah, absolutely.
I agree with that 100%. You buy a ticket, you go to a comedy show, well, you've come to hear this person's point of view, and if you don't like it, I have an idea, and it involves not going to that comedy show. Now, if I'm at a business event, well, that's a little different. They didn't come to a comedy show. They didn't, if at a roast, everybody knows it's a roast, right? It's a roast, and everybody's going to be insulting. Today's meeting is not a roast, right? Nobody expects to be insulted at a meeting or at a business event. So it's like you said about the doctor and the train driver, the train conductor. It's just some jokes belong in some places and some belong in others. And with a little practice, you'll know which ones go where.
That was Pep Rosenfeld talking about the Amsterdam comedy venue Boom Chicago and about his new book, which is called Work, Laugh, Balance.
Arts Talk Radio online. Features on the arts in English.